The Democracy Development Program says the 2024 poll have exposed the political shifts that have been taking place in the country for the past 5 to 7 years now. The organization says the country's political as well as socio-economic challenges largely influence citizens' voting behavior. The program's director, Dr. Paul Kariuki, joins us now to further unpack this. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. A very good afternoon to you. So, in 30 years of democracy in South Africa, right, we have embarked on elections that have surprisingly and completely shifted the political landscape. The ruling Liberation Party, the ANC, losing its majority for the first time in as many years. What has been your observation to the outcome, as well as the latest developments in talks of forming the government of national unity versus coalition?
Good afternoon to you and to your viewers. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think the electoral outcome has really exposed what majority of the citizens and the voting public in this case have been harboring for quite some time now in the last 2 or so decades. The discontent with the pace of service delivery, with the discontent about addressing the issues of corruption within the government and its agencies across the country and at all levels of governance, and of course the discontent with ongoing challenges of energy insecurity and unemployment and chronic poverty. And I think this vote sends a very strong message, of course, to the ruling party, but to all other parties that now the electorate is done with the idea of they're just going to vote for us because they love us. That kind of a cliche that has been always for some time. I think the voters this time around declared enough is enough, and now they're going to use their vote to declare that they want a different form of arrangement in terms of their governing and in terms of politics of the country.
And then, Doctor, those factors that you've just mentioned, right, how do you think then with the formation of this proposed national government of unity, these will actually be prioritized and expedited, noting, of course, that some of these parties that are within these talks have very different ideologies as well as policies?
It's one of the political conundrums that all the political parties involved in discussions about how they're going to co-govern, they're going to deal with that very question. The question of political ideologies versus what is in the best interest of the country and what is in the best interest of the citizens. Remember, this is a contract that they are being mandated by the electorate through their vote, that they are being given another chance to prove themselves that they can really take this country forward, can address the issues, and they can lay down their party visions for the vision of the country. It's a serious mandate, and therefore it's a test for the political parties, all political parties in this case, to be able to rise above their party interests and for once put the interest of the citizens at the center of their discussions.
Now, I'm sure you have seen that there has been quite a few objections, Doctor, to the proposed NGU, even from the ANC party itself, some of its supporters, especially when it comes to the idea of forming this government with the DA, who most still regard as a non-integrated party that only cares for certain interests, with fears that this relationship could potentially raise all the gains that the country has made in terms of social cohesion and especially black empowerment.
It is this kind of discussions that really do expose how far we've come in our journey of transformation as a country for the last 30 years. So long as we're still seeing and talking through races and talking about, what we represent party versus what the nation needs, it seems there's still a lot of work to be done. Firstly, as a nation. And secondly, it also says that as political parties, they haven't gone to a place where they can be able to trust each other to be able to do work that is collectively useful for the nation. They're still stuck in the party dimensions of what they represent and whose interests do they represent. And I think that question has not been resolved. And until that question is resolved, there is going to have a lot of jostling between political parties, even trying to find each other to be able to form a government of national unity.
And that's exactly it, Doctor. I mean, the big problem now is finding a way forward to govern South Africa. So in your view, what would be the best practices that parties should look at in these negotiations in order to ensure that democracy is preserved and the vital services, as you mentioned earlier, are delivered to the people, as well as the social challenges facing the country are prioritized ahead of personal interests as well as views?
I think the first and foremost thing to underscore for all political parties at this point is to respect the vote that they have been given by the citizens, in first and foremost, before even they discuss anything else, because it is the voter here who has given the mandate and not the political parties that have given themselves a mandate. So the first thing. The second thing also is to discuss and agree that what they're going to do must be in the interest of the country and not of citizens, because the electoral vote, the outcome has a context. And the reaction of the voter through the voting results indicate that the voters want something different from what they've been enduring for the last 30 years or so. They want to see their context change. They want to see their welfare changed. They want also to see that there is a government that cares for them. And that means that political parties now have a huge responsibility in their hands to, first of all, address these issues that are really bothering citizens and making them discontent and unhappy. Secondly, they must also agree that they have to lay down their party interests. I think that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing now that is a bit challenging for most parties to get across to one another at the table. And the third thing, of course, I think they have to remind themselves that they have a mandate that can be renewed or not renewed in 2 years' time at the local government elections, and in 5 years' time in 2029. So there is urgency to get the things that they need to get quickly together in the interest of this country and ensure that the country remains cohesive and it remains united, a common brand that we are all South Africans and not because of our tribe, not because of our race or the other things that are trying to divide us.
Doctor, thank you so much for that and for highlighting once again, I mean, that critical aspect of the fact that, you know, the issue of different ideologies as well as policies, particularly when it comes to race, has not been addressed. And this could spell rather a big problem in those talks. Thank you so much for that. That is Dr. Paul Kariuki, Director of Democracy Development Program.